Pie. What is pie? Well, the pie story is pretty ironic because I was in a library one day finding out how to make a webcam service that costs lower than the traditional webcam services we're operating on, right? And this guy came up to me, he was panicking about a statistics course that he was taking in college. And he was like, "Sir, do you know how to do statistics? Do you know how to do statistics?" And I was like, "Yeah, I took a statistics class in college. I just passed with like a 77. However, I used to work in a market research firm. So hands-on, I'm great with statistics. It's just that the fundamental terms, it might take a little bit of time for me to pick back up on that stuff." So I explained that to him and he was like, "Can you help me?" And I was like, how does this even happen, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put my stuff to the side and I'm going to help this guy. So I told him I'd help him. I sat down with him and our first encounter went well. It went so well that he called me back. He wanted to pay me for it. At first I didn't want to take the money. And then I'm like, you know what? He insisted. So let me not insult his intelligence. And I took the payment. And then he went further to say, "Listen, I'd like to continue this relationship because I'll need your services for at least another month and a half, and maybe a year to a year and a half afterwards." So I'm like, wow. Now, mind you, I just left corporate. I started my own business, Benjamin Buggs, communicative arts company / entertainment, and what happened was, and this is why I say it's ironic, is because, I had some type of success in the webcam service upon leaving corporate. So, I wanted, like I said, I wanted to find out a way to do that on my own and integrate it into my communicative arts company. So when I started learning this psychology stuff, I did begin to tutor this guy, right? And I tutored him all the way to earn a bachelor's degree in psychology. Now, how did we get to psychology, right? We started with statistics. Come to find out his major was psychology. And I told him, I said, "Listen, guy, I'm no psych major. I took one course on that as well. However, that's not my major." And he was like, "Listen, if you did what you did with me in statistics, you can do anything." So I agreed. And I tutored this guy to a bachelor's degree in psychology. So I put two and two together. I took the psychology and I added it with the webcam service logic. And I said, you know what if there was a psychological aspect put towards dealing with women who are utilizing the webcam service? And this really goes for men too, because I'm a man, as you can see. However, I had a ball doing webcam servicing, and I think it was more, now that I look at it, it was more psychological than it was sexual. However, the correlation had a large impact on me. I liked it. So I've tried to figure out, well, how can I combine these two? How can I make that correlation and, make it substantial? So what I did was, I started studying the psychological things that I learned over again. And this is what was great for me about tutoring this guy, because I got to save all of the data. I got to, find out how well he did. Of course, he did well, so I knew that I was on the right path on the things that I was telling him. So I took that information and I figured out that most things in this world that everyone pursues derives from the desire for sex, the discipline to refrain from having sex, and the behavior that takes place in between those 2 points, right? Even your largest, biggest spiritual leaders will explain this to you. Maybe not as explicit as I would, however, they will notion to that same finding, right? So I feel, and especially in these times, there's a large disconnect of conveying that to the masses. Just from my own experiences, we are brought into this world and for the most part are put into a structure that is already kind of like set up for us. And we're, like steered or instilled in those patterns. And it's like, once you get to break free, hopefully if you do, to figure things out on your own, you'll figure out that sex plays a larger role in commerce and business and a whole lot of other aspects in life, more than you would have if you would have, stayed on a coerced path, if you will, right? So I believe it is brilliant to bring that into screen format, because if you pay attention, a lot of people are picking up technological devices and utilizing them and taking advantage of them, which is good. You should take advantage, right? And the reason why people are doing that is because it's easier to stream information to someone. They pick it up and absorb it much faster, and it has much more impact when it's done this way, right? So let's talk about like this interview that we're doing right now. Imagine I would have put this on a blog, typed it, for how long we might be here for like about 5 minutes now. I don't know, I'm not looking. I'm just saying, do you think the average person would have sat there and read the information that I just put through the screen? In today's internet age, I doubt it. 2.7 seconds is the average amount of time that an internet user looks at it, whether it's an advertisement, a video, a placement, or whatever, right? So if you're still here, that means I'm actually good at explaining what I'm explaining, and you're also interested in what I have to say. And for the most part, it might be entertaining. It might be my voice that carries across that interests you. It might be the way that I'm moving this hand right now, right? I'm just using little examples to make my point. And if we can build and construct sex education to convey it to the masses, the same way that all education is conveyed to the masses, then we have a brilliant idea and some great projects ahead of us. For one, I just had a conversation with a young author, a young budding erotic author at that, who has this great knack for creating short stories that derive from sexual desires, urges. And when I read them, I give her feedback, I review them, and I say, you know what, look, I can see how this, that, and the third transpired, and I'm talking from a psychological aspect more than the sexual aspect, because I'm basically analyzing the behavior. And she's like, wow, you know what, I didn't, look at it like that. And, I'm listening to what you're saying, and you have some solid points, and I agree with you. So we started kicking and chopping it up some more, and we both agreed to like try to bring one of her projects to the screen. And that's the point that we're at right now. So for those people who, sometimes look at me surprised when I put sex into the equation of an education firm, which is what Pi is. It's an education firm, right? I kind of look back at them with the same surprised face and say, well, what makes you think that sex is not something that people should be educated on? I mean, really look around right now. You know what I mean? And those conversations actually end up being interesting as well. And it opens a lot of eyes. So private investigation enterprises is primarily called private, not because I'm taking some young woman's information on how to stalk her lover, although that may be a service I provide later on in life. What I'm saying about being private is a client can come to me and get something researched in any industry, in any field, on any topic in the world, and I will go research it and find out information for them and put it in a report format so that they understand clearly what it is they're looking for. I'm also able to produce business plans, SWOT analysis, you name it, I can put it together for that person, and it's between me and the client. I'm not obligated to actually make these results public. Now if I feel the research is valid and the client does as well, and we come to a mutual understanding that this would be good for the public, then upon their consent, I make the information public. You understand what I'm saying? So that's primarily where the private aspect comes from. It's between me and the client. Investigation is pretty much self-explanatory. Anything you need to know in any one of these fields and industries, I would have to investigate it the same way an investigator would have to investigate a crime. It's the same exact thing, right? I gotta go do the research, and you'll come to find out, business owners, they'll tell you like they have a research team, like they don't even want to get involved in the R&D sector, right? Because that's the last thing a manager wants to focus on, and I'll tell you why. It's 85% of the business implementation. So it's kind of like, you want to get out there and you want to be active and you want to have all this action. However, you have to do all this research to ensure that the things that you're doing are being done correctly. That's if you care that much. So pretty much in a nutshell, that's what PI is, private investigation enterprises. You need something researched, you need some information on something, I'm your guy, and right now, currently, I'm working on sexual educational products, which has a lot to do with well-being, it has a lot to do with health. these things are just overlooked and I'm not going to say overlooked by our society, they're just overlooked as being conveyed to the masses as something that is essential. So there you have it. I'm glad I could break it down for you. If you need any more information or if you need assistance, you can see my links that are popping up all over this video, I'm pretty sure, or you can look under the description of the video and you can find more information on how to reach me there as well. All right.